Hey folks, Lachlan here again. Right, you've seen the title of the video, you clicked on it, so let's get straight into it. I was born in August of 1990 with a severe physical disability known as quadriplegic cerebral palsy, which has confined me to a wheelchair since my birth. I have also survived two separate incidents in which I could have been violently murdered. One was about 10 years ago, and it was a home invasion in which I was threatened at knife point and trapped in a car for 45 minutes, waiting to die. The other was the July 2021 riots, in which at one point there was a mob of 700 angry Zulus at the end of my street. The only reason they didn't come any further down the street is that residents of my neighborhood blocked the area with their cars and stood preventing it with guns. I tell you this to illustrate the fact that I am not naive or inexperienced with regard to the nature of South African life. I am also a journalist by trade, and I have worked in emergency services, so I have had direct working relationships with cops on the ground. I'm not talking about the bureaucrats in national management. I mean the cops that deal with violent criminals every day. And these cops, most of whom were black, have openly told me about how those in national management seek to obfuscate and misinterpret crime numbers to make them seem less severe than they actually are. Put simply, local cops are often told to lie about how bad the situation is so that the cops at the top can get bonuses for looking as though they did a good job. I am not blind to the reality of life in this country. In fact, I know more about it than the average South African does, at least as far as the crime situation goes. I have worked directly in communicating the seriousness of the farm murder situation, and in fact worked directly on a number of farm murder cases. So I'm never going to deny the reality of that situation either. I'm now going to tell you about one of the darkest experiences I've ever had. During one debriefing, which we would do weekly when I worked in emergency services, we were going back through case notes, and we listened to a recording which had been saved from our private radio network, in which a woman arrived on a murder scene to find that her husband had just been killed. That is one of the most haunting things I have ever heard. The woman screamed and screamed and screamed. And as you can tell, even now, years later, thinking about that makes me emotional because I still can't get that sound out of my head. I also want to be clear that because I get on here and I make videos openly criticizing the ANC and the other radical political parties in South Africa, I regularly receive threats of violence, death, and dispossession. I am not blind to the radical element in this country that wants violence. But the main topic of today's video is the type of white South African who also seems to want violence. Their argument is often that because the ANC has deeply fucked this country up, they are now justified in mistreating and disrespecting ordinary black South Africans whenever they feel like it. If you want to do that, I can't stop you. But if violence comes, and especially if violence comes on a large scale, You better know what you're getting yourself in for. You better be prepared to defend your family, and you better understand that the fact is that if violence does break out, you and your families will most likely die, as will thousands of black people. So just know that your ego and your sense of superiority as a white person will not save you from a violent and painful death. This is why I try to speak with balance and fairness with regard to the social situation here in South Africa, because the majority of black people do not want violence. They, like whites, simply want peace, justice, and the ability to build the best lives that they can for themselves and their families. So I will never sit by and allow ordinary black people to be disrespected when they do not deserve it. Black people deserve just as much dignity, courtesy, and respect as white people do. If you want me to be one of those white guys who simply makes content condemning all blacks as savage, violent, and destructive, I'm not your guy. This is not the channel for that. There are plenty of other people who make such content, so I advise you seek them out. If it offends you when you see me express agreement or solidarity with a black South African, that's your problem. And rather than wasting your time insulting me, you can fuck off. I hope that my stance on this is clear to you now, and that you enjoy the rest of your day. For now, farewell.